They told me I had to smile, had to pretend everything was perfect, had to play the supporting role in Madison's fairy tale one more time. But when I found that video on my phone, everything changed. Sometimes the truth has a way of demanding its moment, and my sister's wedding day was about to become mine. My name is Emma Parker, and this is the story of how I finally stopped being invisible. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my cramped San Francisco apartment. I hadn't heard from my parents in 8 months, not since I'd declined their invitation to Madison's engagement party. The silence had been peaceful, honestly. No more comparing my modest marketing job to Madison's Instagram influencer empire. No more listening to Mom gush about Madison's natural charisma, while I sat there like furniture. But now Dad's name was flashing on my screen, and something in my stomach twisted. Emma. His voice was clipped, businesslike. We need to talk about Madison's wedding. I set down my pen. What about it? You're coming. This isn't negotiable. The audacity shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Actually, it is negotiable. I'm an adult with my own life. Don't be dramatic. Mom's voice joined the call. They had me on speaker. Of course they did. Nothing I said was ever private enough to warrant individual attention. This is your sister's special day. Family shows up for family. I almost laughed. Family. When was the last time they'd shown up for me? When I graduated summa cum laude? They were at Madison's photo shoot. When I got my first promotion, they were planning Madison's birthday party. When I moved to San Francisco to start over, radio silence. Madison has specifically requested you be there, Dad continued. The photographer needs family shots, and it would look strange if her sister wasn't present. There it was. Not we want you there or we miss you. It would look strange. Everything always came back to appearances with them. I'll think about it, I said, already knowing I wouldn't go. You'll do more than think, Mom's voice sharpened. You'll be there, Emma. Wear something nice but not attention-grabbing. Navy blue would be appropriate. They hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone for a long moment, then walked to my bathroom mirror. The face looking back at me was tired, but not broken. 26 years old, finally living on my own terms, finally free from the suffocating weight of being Madison's shadow. I'd worked too hard for this piece to give it up for one day of pretending. But the calls kept coming. Dad again the next morning, this time with financial threats. We're still covering your student loans, Emma. It would be unfortunate if that arrangement became complicated. Mom followed with emotional manipulation. Your grandmother specifically asked about you. She's flying in from Phoenix just for this wedding. You wouldn't disappoint an 80-year-old woman, would you? And finally, Madison herself. Her voice was honey-sweet, the way it always got when she wanted something. God, I've missed you. Listen, I know things have been weird between us, but this wedding, it's going to be incredible. Like, Vogue might even feature it. Can you imagine? Your little sister in Vogue. Little sister. She was 2 years younger but had somehow claimed that title when she surpassed me in height at 13. Everything about Madison was bigger, her personality, her social media following, her presence in our parents' lives. I know you're busy with your little job, she continued, but I really need you there. For moral support, you know. Sisters have to stick together. Sisters, right. Like when she borrowed my prom date junior year and never gave him back. Like when she used my college application essays as inspiration for her own, then got into the same university with half my GPA. Like when she convinced our parents to loan her my inheritance from Grandpa Parker to start her business, which turned out to be an expensive photography hobby. I'll see what I can do, I told her, already planning my polite decline. But then something happened that changed everything. I was walking through Union Square after work, mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, when I saw her story. Madison glowing in golden hour light, caption reading, "Pre-wedding spa day with my girls. Can't wait to marry the love of my life tomorrow." Tomorrow. The wedding was tomorrow, and she was just now telling me? I clicked through her stories, watching her laugh with bridesmaids I'd never met, getting her nails done at a salon that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hey, is this Emma, Madison's sister?" "This is Jake, her fiancé. Look, I know this is last minute, but any chance you could make it tomorrow? Madison keeps saying she doesn't care if you're there, but I can tell she does. She lights up when she talks about you." I stared at the message. Madison lights up when she talks about me? That was news to me. The last time we'd spoken before her wedding planning began, she'd told me I was too negative and needed to find some joy in life. Something about Jake's message felt genuine, though. He was trying to bridge a gap he probably didn't even understand. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. He had no idea what he was marrying into. That's when the next notification came in. It was a video message from someone named Tyler, apparently one of Jake's groomsmen. He must have gotten my number from Jake. The message was clearly meant for someone else, but it had landed in my inbox instead. The video opened on what looked like a hotel room. Jake was sitting on the edge of a bed, tie loosened, holding a beer. He was talking to someone off camera, his words slightly slurred. "Dude, you're really doing this tomorrow?" the voice behind the camera asked. Jake laughed, a sound that made my stomach turn. "Yeah, man. Honestly, it's not about love. Madison's got this massive following, right? Like 500,000 people hanging on her every word. When I marry her, I'm basically marrying her brand." My breath caught. "But you love her, right?" the cameraman pressed. Jake shrugged. "I love what she can do for my business. Her followers are exactly my target demographic, young women with disposable income who buy into lifestyle brands. Once we're married, I'll have access to all of that. Plus, her dad's already offered me a position in his company. What about after? Like long-term?" "Long-term?" Jake took another swig of beer. "Honestly, Tyler, I give it 2 years max. Maybe less if she gets boring. But by then, I'll have built my own following, established my own brand. I won't need her anymore." The camera shook as Tyler laughed. "Dude, that's cold." "That's business," Jake replied. "Madison's beautiful and popular, but she's not exactly deep, you know? This marriage is an investment, a temporary one." The video ended. I sat on a bench in the middle of Union Square, people streaming around me, and watched it 3 more times. My hands were shaking. Not from anger. Well, not only from anger, but from the sudden, crystal-clear realization that I held something powerful. Madison, for all her flaws, didn't deserve this. No one did. But more than that, this was my chance. My chance to finally be the one who mattered, who made a difference, who couldn't be ignored. I looked up at the sky, considering my options. I could delete the video, pretend I'd never seen it, and go back to my quiet life in San Francisco. Or I could get on a plane to Los Angeles and finally be the sister who saved the day instead of the one who got forgotten. The flight was packed with weekend travelers. I clutched my phone in my lap, the video saved in 3 different places. I'd barely slept, spending the night researching everything I could about Jake's business, his social media presence, his history. What I found only confirmed what I'd seen in the video. He was a serial networker, someone who collected people like business cards. Madison's Instagram was full of pictures of them together, but looking at them now with new eyes, I could see it. Jake was always positioned to catch the best light, always angled toward the camera. In every photo, Madison was gazing at him while he looked straight at the lens. The wedding was being held at a vineyard in Malibu, the kind of place that required a 2-hour drive from LAX and cost more per hour than I made in a week. I'd booked a room at a nearby hotel, maxing out my credit card in the process. But this felt important in a way I couldn't fully explain. When I arrived at the venue, I almost turned around. Everything was white and gold and impossibly perfect, exactly the kind of aesthetic Madison had been curating her entire life. Fairy lights draped between trees, a string quartet playing softly, servers in crisp uniforms offering champagne to guests who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. I spotted my parents immediately. Dad in his navy suit, Mom in a dress that probably cost more than my car. They were holding court near the bar, smiling and laughing with people I didn't recognize. Successful people, important people, the kind of people who validated their choices. They didn't see me approach. "Emma!" Mom's voice was bright but strained. "You made it." We weren't sure. I wasn't sure either, I said honestly. Dad looked me up and down, taking in my simple black dress, not navy blue, as instructed. Well, you're here. That's what matters. Where's Madison? Getting ready, of course. This is her day. Mom's smile was radiant. Everything has to be perfect. Perfect. There was that word again. The ceremony was beautiful, I'll give them that. Madison looked stunning in a dress that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Jake stood at the altar looking nervous but handsome, playing his part perfectly. When they exchanged vows, Madison cried delicate tears that somehow didn't smudge her makeup. Jake's voice was steady and warm as he promised to love her forever. I watched from the back row, the video burning a hole in my phone. The reception was held in a converted barn decorated with thousands of white roses. I found my seat at a table near the back, table 12, between Madison's old sorority sister and someone's +1 who spent the entire cocktail hour checking work emails. Madison and Jake made their grand entrance to thunderous applause. During dinner, speech after speech praised their love, their perfect match, their bright future together. Madison's maid of honor, a girl named Sophia who'd never spoken to me despite 3 years of family gatherings, talked about watching their epic love story unfold on social media. Every word felt like a knife twist. Finally, after what felt like hours, the DJ announced it was time for open mic toasts. Anyone who wanted to share a memory or blessing was welcome to come forward. I stood up. My legs felt unsteady as I walked toward the front of the room. Conversations died down as people noticed me approaching the microphone. Madison looked confused. We hadn't planned this, hadn't discussed it. Jake looked mildly curious. Hi everyone, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the sound system. I'm Emma, Madison's sister. Polite applause. Some people were still eating, not really paying attention. I wanted to share something with you all tonight. Something about love and truth, and the importance of knowing who you're really marrying. Madison's face went pale. Mom was shaking her head slightly, making a sit-down gesture with her hands. Dad looked like he wanted to disappear. Jake sent me something yesterday. I continued, pulling out my phone. Well, actually, I think he meant to send it to someone else. But I'm glad I saw it, because I think you all should see it too. Emma, don't! Madison's voice cut through the room, but she was too far away to stop me. I looked directly at her, my baby sister, who'd spent her whole life in the spotlight, who'd never had to question whether she was loved or wanted or enough. This is what your husband really thinks about your marriage, I said, and pressed play. The video projected onto the screen behind me, crystal clear and unmistakable. Jake's voice filled the room, every cruel word about business, investments, and temporary arrangements and not needing Madison anymore echoing off the vaulted ceiling. The silence that followed was deafening. Madison's face crumpled, not the pretty, delicate tears from the ceremony. This was raw, ugly sobbing. Jake was on his feet, stammering excuses, but the damage was done. Guests were pulling out their phones, some recording the chaos, others apparently calling friends to tell them what was happening. That's not. I was drunk. I didn't mean. Jake's voice was drowned out by the rising murmur of shocked conversation. Madison's maid of honor was at her side, trying to comfort her, but Madison pushed her away. She looked at me across the room with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, but something like recognition. You're lying, she said, but her voice was broken. Jake loves me. Tell them you're lying, Emma. I looked at my sister, this golden girl who'd had everything handed to her, who'd never had to doubt her worth or fight for attention or wonder if she mattered. For the first time in our lives, I was the one with power. I'm sorry, Madison, I said, and I meant it, but I'm not lying. The rest happened quickly. Jake's family left first, his mother making loud comments about unstable family dynamics and red flags. Madison ran from the room, still in her wedding dress, leaving behind a trail of abandoned gifts and wilted bouquet petals. Mom cornered me by the coat check. How could you do this? Her voice was shaking with rage. How could you destroy your sister's life out of jealousy? This isn't about jealousy, I said calmly. This is about truth. You've always resented her, Dad joined the attack. always been bitter that she was more successful, more loved. More loved? I cut him off. By who? You? When was the last time either of you asked how I was doing? When was the last time you cared about my life? My job? My happiness? They stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Madison didn't deserve to marry someone who saw her as a business transaction, I continued. And maybe if you'd paid attention to your daughters instead of just collecting them like trophies, you would have seen what kind of man he really was. I left them standing there and walked out into the California night. The story broke on social media within hours. Someone had recorded my speech and Jake's video response, and it was spreading faster than wildfire. Wedding Exposed was trending by midnight. Entertainment blogs were picking it up by morning. Madison called me 2 days later. The whole world is laughing at me, she said without preamble. My wedding is a meme, Emma, a meme. I was sitting in my San Francisco apartment, watching the fog roll in over the bay. I'm sorry it happened this way. Are you? Her voice was different, smaller, more vulnerable than I'd ever heard it. Are you really sorry, or are you finally happy that I'm the one who's embarrassed? The question hung between us. I could have lied, could have played the supportive sister role one more time. Instead, I told her the truth. I'm sorry you got hurt. I'm not sorry you found out who Jake really was before it was too late. There was a long pause. You know what's funny? Madison said finally. Mom and Dad are more upset about the bad publicity than about Jake using me. They keep asking how we can spin this positively and whether I should make a statement about moving forward. That sounded exactly like them. What are you going to do? I asked. I don't know. For the first time in my life, I actually don't know. She paused. Emma? Thank you. I hate that you did it that way, and I hate that everyone saw it, but thank you for caring enough to stop it. We talked for 2 more hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time since we were kids. Madison told me about the pressure she felt to maintain her perfect image, about how exhausted she was from always being on. I told her about feeling invisible, about building a life that had nothing to do with our family's expectations. When we finally hung up, something felt different. Not fixed, there was too much history for that, but possible. The calls from our parents continued for weeks, but I stopped answering. The guilt trips, the financial threats, the demands that I fix this mess, none of it mattered anymore. I'd spent 26 years trying to earn their approval, and I was finally done. Madison and I started texting regularly. Nothing dramatic, just small updates about our days. She was taking a break from social media, she told me, focusing on figuring out who she was when she wasn't performing for an audience. 3 months later, she moved to San Francisco. I need a fresh start, she said when she called to tell me. And maybe I need to learn how to be someone's sister instead of someone's brand. She rented an apartment in my neighborhood, got a job at a local marketing firm, cut her hair short and dyed it brown. The first time I saw her without her signature blonde waves and perfect makeup, I barely recognized her, but she looked lighter, more real. We had coffee every Sunday. Slowly, carefully, we started building something new, not the relationship our parents had forced on us, but one we chose for ourselves. The wedding video still surfaces online sometimes, usually when people are compiling lists of most dramatic wedding moments, or times weddings went wrong. Madison doesn't watch them anymore, but I know they exist. A permanent reminder of the day I stopped being invisible. I don't regret it. Not the video, not the public humiliation, not the family bridge I burned in the process. For the first time in my life, I'd been the one who mattered. The one who changed everything. The one who couldn't be ignored. Sometimes the truth is messy and painful and destroys carefully constructed illusions. But it's still the truth, and someone has to be brave enough to tell it. I'm glad it was me. Mom and Dad still don't understand. They see what happened at the wedding as a betrayal, a moment of jealous rage that cost them their perfect family image. They've written me off as the difficult daughter, the one who couldn't just play her part and stay quiet. Maybe they're right. Maybe I was jealous. Maybe I did want to tear down the golden pedestal they'd built for Madison. But I also saved my sister from a marriage that would have destroyed her. I exposed a man who saw her as nothing more than a business opportunity. I forced our family to confront the toxic patterns we'd all been enabling for years. If that makes me the villain in their story, I can live with that. Madison thrives in San Francisco. She's dating a teacher now, someone who makes her laugh and never asks about her follower count. She's thinking about going back to school, maybe studying environmental science. When she talks about the future, she sounds excited instead of anxious. "I never thanked you properly," she told me last Sunday over coffee, "for saving me." "You don't need to thank me," I said. "We're sisters. Real sisters now." She smiled, and for the first time since we were children, it reached her eyes. The story has a strange epilogue. Jake tried to contact me 6 months after the wedding, claiming he wanted to explain himself and set the record straight. I blocked his number. Whatever narrative he was trying to construct, I wanted no part of it. But Madison told me he'd reached out to her too, with apologies and promises that he'd changed. She listened to his voicemail once, she said, then deleted it. "He doesn't get to rewrite history," she told me. "And I don't owe him forgiveness just because he's finally sorry he got caught." My sister had learned to value herself. That might be the best wedding gift I ever gave. I kept one thing from that day, a photo someone took of me walking away from the venue. I'm in silhouette against the sunset, my black dress flowing behind me, my head held high. I look like someone who just changed her life forever. Because I did. I stopped being the forgotten daughter, the backup plan, the one who didn't matter. I became the woman who spoke truth to power, who refused to let lies masquerade as love, who chose courage over comfort. I became myself. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough.